Good morning, Jamaica, and welcome to another post-cabinet press briefing. Today is Wednesday, April 9, 2025, and I have a lot of individuals to acknowledge. This morning is going to be a really good post-cabinet press briefing. We have the Honorable Darrell Vaz, our Minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport. We also have Senator the Honorable Aubin Hill, the Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, or the Business Minister as he likes to be called. We will also be joined by the Honorable Floyd Green, our Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining. We also have with us Dr. Kassan Troop, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, and if I may say, the best ministry. Mrs. Santia Bennett Templar, I know she's supposed to be here, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. We also have Mrs. Carol Palmer with us, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecoms and Transport, and Sonia Linton, Vice President, Export of JAMPRO. We also have Olive Wilson Cross, the CTD in the Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecoms and Transportation. We also have Owen Ellington, Acting Managing Director of the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC. I also want to welcome some special guests that we have with us. We have Mr. Sidney Thwaites, the President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, JMEA. We also have Mrs. Kamisha Turner Blake, Executive Director of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association. And we have Mr. Aswad Morgan, the Chairman of Expo Jamaica Committee. What a wonderful Expo it was on the weekend. We also have joining us today Peter Thompson, the Executive Director of Jamaica 4-H Clubs, and we have some other specially invited guests here, members of the media, the team from JIS and OPM, Jamaicans watching at home and abroad. Good morning again to all of you. Before we begin, I have to acknowledge the sad passing of a much loved journalist, Alicia Smith of the Jamaica Observer. And I know yesterday when Arthur Williams reached out to me about it, I had to do what a journalist would do, triangulate. I had to call other people to find out if it was really true. And it was. I know it was a very sad day for many of you in the media world. And I need to note that Alicia didn't just work at Jamaica Observer, she was also a former team member of the Jamaica Information Service. So I know many of you are here this morning, you are mourning her loss, and I thank you for being here, and I obviously have to thank her for all her service that she did in her time at GIS and also with the Jamaica Observer. And so on behalf of the government of Jamaica, I want to express our heartfelt condolences to her immediate family and to her media family on her passing. And of course, may Alicia's soul rest in peace. And as we start this morning, as always, I'm going to give you some good news stories, showing you how your government is working for you. The first one, and I always try to start with this, the crime statistics. Murders are down 35.9%. That is a big number. That's a big decline in murders, and that's coming from the latest statistics from the Jamaica Constabulary Force. The JCF's crime data shows that 191 homicides were recorded up to April 5. And if you look at last year, January 1 to April 5, there were 298 murders last year. This year, we have 107 fewer than we did last year. That's a big deal. That's 107 less families mourning their children. And when the numbers were going up, we were all exclaiming in Jamaica, and rightly so. And as the numbers go down, we have to celebrate it. And it's not just the homicide numbers. If we look at shootings are down by 26%. Rape, down by 57%. And robberies are down by 7%. Those are the true numbers. It says we're going in the right direction. Are we there yet? Absolutely not. But for the first time in a long time, we can celebrate these numbers, and we have to celebrate all this work. And in his weekly address to the JCF in the Force Orders, our Police Commissioner, Dr. Kevin Blake, noted that Jamaica recorded the lowest number of murders in more than 25 years. That is such a big deal. He highlighted that the first quarter of 2025 marks the sixth consecutive quarters in which murders have declined. Commissioner Blake also noted that the first quarter also saw the most significant drop in major crimes we've seen since 2001. And these reductions are a result of continued investment in intelligence-led policing, technological upgrades, and strategic partnerships. It is so happy. I'm so happy when I go around the country to our schools and I get to see many of the police officers because they join me on the school tours. And they're always so proud to tell me the stats in their area. They'll tell me, oh, we're down 40%, you know, they all know their numbers. Our police officers are working hard. They're working so hard to bring the numbers down, and they're so proud to tell you of the success that they're having. And so I'm very, very happy to again inform us and remind us that murders are down 35.9% in the first quarter. Then I have to also note another good thing. The long-awaited National School Nutrition Policy was considered and approved by Cabinet on Monday, and we will be tabling it in the Houses of Parliament as a white paper. And this policy has been in train for a long time, and I'm so very happy, and congratulations, PS, that we're finally at this point where we can bring to Jamaica the National School Nutrition Policy, which will change the way our children get their meals in schools and the entire apparatus around school nutrition. The other thing I want to note is the government rolling out its $1.5 billion quarterly road patching programs. I know in December and January when we all saw them patching the roads, everybody was happy. But that was not a one-off. It will continue, and so the government will be rolling out another set of road patching in May to improve road conditions. The initiative will target our most critical road corridors. The program will prioritize main thoroughfares and high-trafficked corridors, community and parish roads in need of urgent repairs. And so, as I said, all this work is scheduled to start in May with a phased rollout to ensure efficiency and to maximize the impact of this. And I know all of us are looking forward to this continued work to upgrade our roads. And this is in addition to all of the fantastic work that's being done under the Spark program. I have a list that is 15 pages long of good things happening, but because I have all of these esteemed ministers in the room this morning, I will not go through them today, and I will be moving on to our presentation. So as I said, we have 3 ministers here, 3 wonderful ministers, 3, and yes, okay, and then I'm now hearing that we've changed the order of things, and that Aubin Hill, or Senator the Honorable Aubin Hill, or Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, the Business Minister, will be going first. And then we will have the Honorable Darrell Vaz, Minister of Science, Energy, Telecoms and Transport. And then the Honorable Floyd Green will come up, who is our Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining. So please welcome our Business Minister, who did such a fantastic job, and congratulations again to the JMEA on a wonderful, wonderful Expo Jamaica over the weekend. So, Minister Hill, you're first up.
What a joyful minister she is. You guys must be happy to come here every Wednesday and see Minister Dana Morris Dixon up here, because she just brings joy. And you know, she claims to be the best ministry, and because she takes care of all the children, I'll just say the business ministry, because we pay the taxes that make sure that the children get educated. But, you know, I'm just happy to be here this morning to be part of a government that is so absolutely transparent. Minister Dana Morris-Dixon is absolutely right. Wherever I go around the country, and sometimes you won't recognize me when I go around the country, I have on a cap and tennis shoes and so on, but the policemen know, and they're always so happy to tell you that crime is down. You know, it reminds me of a few years ago. Every week you'll hear on the radio, oh, we only have 8 more weeks of money to buy imported goods, and we have 11 weeks of money. And now, for 3, 4, 5 years, nobody talks about that. Because our net international reserves is at, I just got the number for March. I used to talk for the past 3 months, I said 5.5 billion US dollars. It's now up to 5.785 billion US dollars for the quarter just finished in March. Now we're going to say, oh, we don't spend the money. We're spending $44 billion on roads. But there's a reason why this is important. That stability of the Jamaican dollar and the keeping down, the pressuring down of inflation is because we have that reserve. Without that reserve, the currency would be devaluing every single day, and devaluation and inflation are the biggest theft of wealth, especially from those who have the least amount of wealth. So it's good to have that. It's a good place to start. But what I really want to talk about this morning is Expo. Mr. Sidney Thwaites is here, the president of Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association. Mrs. Kamesha Blake is here as well. And Oswald, my friend, who used to play tennis, he's now gone to fly expensive aeroplanes and not play tennis anymore. So he was in charge, he was a man in charge of doing the Expo. My own Shulette Cox couldn't be here. She has to be in Montego Bay doing some other business. But Ms. Linton is here, the VP, who really was in charge of the JAMPRO end of the business. JAMPRO and JMEA, JAMPRO, agency, one of the 20 agencies in this ministry, and JMEA did a fantastic job. And that's what I want to tell you a little bit about before I take questions. Expo Jamaica is the largest exhibition and trade show in the English-speaking Caribbean. Held biannually every 2 years, this flagship event showcases the diversity, quality, and innovation of Jamaican goods and services across a wide array of industries: agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, technology, logistics, and the creative industries. The event typically attracts a general audience of 16 to 20,000 Jamaican patrons. And if you were there this weekend, whether it was Saturday or Sunday or Friday, it was just ram-packed. We also had a second event right there, which was, which calls commission, the president, a little bit of anxiety in terms of logistics, but it helped because when they finished running, they came across and looked at the products as well. So we were able to host those 2 events, and the Expo took place between April 4th and 6th this past weekend at the National Indoors Sports Center and the National Arena. Expo Jamaica provides Jamaican businesses the opportunity to present their products and services directly to high potential domestic and foreign buyers. It also serves as a tool for promoting trade and investment by connecting exporters with buyers, distributors, and investors from across the globe. We had buyers from about 25 countries. The buyers' reception we had on April 2nd at the Pegasus was really jam-packed. I was there, was happy to be there, and in collaboration with the JMEA, it went very well. Again, JAMPRO was leading the ministry's effort there. Held at the Pegasus, it engendered high-level overseas overview of Jamaica's manufacturing and logistics capacity. That became especially important at the time when we're talking about logistics. I just met, just leaving a meeting with a prospective incoming BPO company. And they're so happy. They have businesses in all parts of Asia. They've been there, we go there, and they're so happy to come here to Jamaica. They're going to deal with one of our high-level BPO operators here. And the proximity is great, and especially at this time when tariffs, the issue of tariffs is so much in the air. So you have high-level overview of Jamaica's manufacturing and logistics capacity, direct engagement between government, industry leaders, and buyers, and it provided insights on the navigating Jamaica's investment landscape, which is constantly changing and improving. And it facilitated networking environment for strategic business-to-business assignment. Those 25 countries included North America and the United States and Canada, of course, Europe, the United Kingdom, Germany, elsewhere, Latin America, Mexico, Peru, El Salvador, Asia and the Middle East, India, Oman, Africa, Ghana, and the Caribbean, of course, Antigua, Trinidad and Tobago, Cayman Islands, British Virgin Islands, Dominica, Barbados, and St. Lucia and Bahamas. These markets represent strategic trade opportunities for Jamaica, especially within CARICOM, the diaspora markets, and global supply chains seeking nearshoring solutions. This, again, is especially so in a time when tariffs dominate the news. We have a geographical proximity to the largest market in the world that we have been selling for a long time. Certainly all the time in my ministry, 2.5 years, everywhere I go. Kamisha has been in some of my business missions. She's heard me. The geographic location is so fantastic. Now it is becoming so vital because people are now looking to come to Jamaica as a place to invest, near shore, set up your Jamaican company, and off you go. And thank God, if there's any thanking to be had, we are at the lower level of the tariff range. Buyers represented a wide range of key industries, food and beverages, chemicals and pharmaceuticals, textile and apparel, digital and professional services, including ICT, BPO, and financial services. Financial services is something Jamaica is going to have to grow into to become the rich country we must, because we cannot continue to sell to less than 3 million people with a per capita GDP of less than 7,000 become rich. We have to find new markets. The existing ones are good, but they haven't made us rich. We have to find new ones, rich ones, to make sure we can sell more goods and services too. So electrical and electronics were on play, hospitality and tourism always there in the space, and environmental solutions. We had 884 buyers attended the Jamaican Expo. That's a record. Big records. I mean, we don't have any people in here who clap, but Jamie needs a big clap, and Jampro and the ministry and all of us who work to make it clear. We had over 450 were foreign buyers. We had 440 official business meetings. These are the official ones. And people are in there, they meet people, they go out and have their meetings. Those are just the ones recorded through Jampro. Because once you get there, you start doing business. And you know, we had people go and check. The MSME Sydney people were just over the moon. They said, we're selling so much, we have orders to go, and that's a part of the economy that grows. The big companies were there, of course, Grace, Recinco, Jamaica Brothers Group, they're all there, and they're all happy to be there. And these meetings involve sample requests, quote for submissions, and advanced deal discussions. Export Max. Export Max is a product of Jampro. Jampro, again, the leading investment and export agency for the government through the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. So we had in Export Max cohorts from cohort 4, agribusiness were there, non-food manufacturing, global digital services, that's BPO. Media impact was huge. We had for Jamaica 2025, Expo 2025, promoted through a multi-platform promotional blitz. We have cross-promotion, we have media mix, we have outcome of over 800,000 views across new and returning audiences. So we had 50 public and private sector partners there all across our industries, logistics, everybody. So we're very happy to see what Expo 2025 was. Remind you that Expo 2023, when we came out of the pandemic, the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce sponsored that. I had to explain to my Prime Minister that no, Prime Minister, we don't do this regularly. In fact, we don't do it at all. But we don't have pandemics every day. So I had to make sure we go in front of the people who want to display their products, and we supported last year. But all our 20 agencies were supporters this year. I'll take questions on that, but one item that Minister Vaz is going to explain a great deal on, we're making it easier for the transport sector to get the vehicles that they need. Collaboratively, his ministry and mine work together to make the new arrangements for the importing of vehicles. For 10 years, we moved from 8 years to 10 years for vehicles that take 8 passengers. Others, we move from 10 to 15 years, and making sure that we make it as equitable as possible. He will give you details on that, just to say that this is how this government works. We collaborate to make sure these things happen, and we've collaborated with a lot of other ministries on other things that we're doing. That's my piece. Do I take questions? No, because I have to go and make a speech, Minister, so let me out of here as soon as you can.
Naomi's here. We get to hear Naomi's beautiful voice taking the questions. Minister Hill is here. Are there any questions for Minister Hill? I know we have some big announcements coming up from Minister Vaz, so let's go with the questions. Over to you, Naomi.
Good morning, everyone. Here is the nationwide news. So, Minister, we know that the government has already reacted to the 10% tariffs that were announced by U.S. President Donald Trump. But he also announced yesterday that he'd be putting on an additional tariff on imports from China. So that's pretty much raised it to 104% in certain goods that they import. Now, that isn't Jamaica. Those are two completely different countries. But given how much of a global powerhouse both countries are, do you see it potentially impacting operations in Jamaica?
Not immediately. However, one must have a caveat on that. When you have two elephants of the size of the first and second largest economies in the world in what is now clearly a tariff battle, you have to be very, very much aware and nimble to make sure you find the places where we're not the target. We don't sell fentanyl to anybody. We don't have a border from which people are moving into the United States. And we have a very large negative trade balance, unlike other countries that have very large positive trade balances against the U.S. So we don't see us directly, but we're doing different studies. Ministry of Foreign Affairs leads that because we have the CBI. The CBI, we're not clear yet. We don't have the documentation that tells us yes or no the CBI is going to continue, because it's something that President Reagan, a Republican, put in, or no, CBI has gone away and across the board there's with 10%. And if that happens, we then have to say who else is in the 10% category, because the lowest one. And any of those in that 10% category, do they sell the stuff that we sell to the United States? Some may, but they may actually be located in Africa or Asia. We then have clearly a competitive advantage from location, the geographic location I spoke about just now. So we then have that, even if they were 10%, but some of them who sell the stuff that we sell to the United States, maybe in the 15, 25, or 35% category. And we then must find the ways, which is what we as Jamaicans have done in the past 10 years. We have been able to overcome the pandemic. We didn't raise taxes, we didn't borrow any more money to do it. And in fact, we've had, through that entire period of time, 10 consecutive budgets without any raising of taxes. We have gone through Barry last year and Rafael or whatever the other storm was called, and again 6 months of so-so rain. So, and yet we managed that. So we think we're in a position to be wise enough not to get into that war. We're not getting into it. We're quietly, silently, strategically looking at how best we get through this with the benefit of Jamaicans at the tip. That's our job. We must look after Jamaicans, and we take that very seriously. So we think there are opportunities. I know from my experience running companies and banks that for every obstacle, Mahiri, whether it's in your business or mine, there are 15 to 20 opportunities that come with it. Let's find them and make sure they work for us.
All right, thank you, Minister. Very complex matters, but we'll be dealing with it. Are there any other questions? Because I think the media is also very cognizant that we have 3 ministers today.
That should cover everything. that one answer. So I'm done,
All right, yes,
Minister.
thank you, Minister.
Thank you so much,
you very much.
Minister Hill.
And forgive me, I must go on to something else, but you know, you have 2 wonderful ministers here.
All right. Thank you very much, Minister Hill, and his update on Expo Jamaica, which was just absolutely fantastic. And for those of you who were like me, you left buying a lot of things because I like so many things there. I got Christmas cake mix. I got hair stuff made with honey. I got face things. It was really wonderful. But the key thing is that's not what Expo Jamaica is about alone. It's also the buyers. So all of these small manufacturers were getting people from overseas and in Jamaica buying their products. And that was what was so fantastic. And Minister Hill said it. For over 400 buyers from overseas coming to look at these businesses, over 800 total. It was definitely a success. And so now we move on to some very important announcements from the one and only, the Honorable Darrell Vaz, or Minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunications, and Transport. Make him welcome. And the pretty yellow bus. The pretty yellow school bus is outside of Jamaica House, so that just for emphasis this morning. Minister, over to you.
Thank you very much. Morning, ladies and gentlemen, permanent secretaries, colleague ministers, and of course, those viewing on social media. This morning, I want to give a few updates on ministerial portfolios that I am honored to hold. And I want to start first and foremost with the Jamaica Public Service renegotiation. I didn't think that I would need to after the standing finance in Parliament, but it seems that I do. So again, let me reiterate. Formal notification was sent to the Jamaica Public Service on November 4th, 2024, to advise them of the initiation of the renegotiation of their license, which expires in 2027. It is required that we indicate to them prior to July 2025. We did so in November 2024. Many months ahead of the time. And this I mentioned in the Standing Finance Committee, that we also had engaged expert assistance for this undertaking with the renegotiation of the JPS license. The support is now in place. The team has had several meetings with first and foremost stakeholders, and I had my first meeting with them on April 4th, 2025. That will be the consulting firm, FMA, from the United Kingdom, who has submitted its inception report, which was discussed during my meeting. The recent impact of Hurricane Beryl on the electricity sector has provided the most recent lessons and has highlighted the basis for change in the sector. Global and economic conditions have significantly changed since the original JPS license was issued in 2001. So the terms of the license in 2001 were not appropriate in 2015 when it was again renegotiated to 2027. And even more so, today in 2025. With that in mind, I intend to have formal discussions at the highest level of the JPS management team with a view of a mutually beneficial agreement. I again reiterate, I am committed to ensuring these negotiations are productive and have an amicable settlement achieved in the best interest of the Jamaican people. I have brought the letter because it seems like some people still don't get it. This is a letter, November 12, 2004, signed by my permanent secretary to the JPS president. This is my first report from the consultants, and it says findings from FMA work to date for discussions with the Honorable Darrell Vaz, April 2025. If I'm not mistaken, I think we are in 2025 now. So I want to make that very clear. And we do have choices to make in the very near future. And I would posit it that the Jamaican people must decide whether they want Darrell Vaz on behalf of the Andronis administration to renegotiate or Philip Paulwell from the opposition. I think that choice is quite clear. Let me move on now. Certificate of Fitness Program mentioned in the Prime Minister's presentation. On March 27th, the Prime Minister announced changes to the Certificate of Fitness Program in his budget presentation. 2 weeks ago, shortly after his presentation, a multi-agency team led by my ministry to determine the steps and actions to be taken to implement the policy change. In addition, provisions are to be made for motorists to license their vehicles for up to 2 years at a time. The team is working on a technology solution to integrate the fitness and registration systems, enabling the Jamaica Constabulary Force to access all necessary vehicle information via the license plate. This will require amendments to the road traffic regulations to give effect to these changes. The projected implementation time for this is within the next 2 to 3 months. Between June and July is what I have mandated my permanent secretary. It is important to clarify that contrary to some media and social media reports, the policy position announced by the Prime Minister does not currently exist in our legislation. Existing provisions allow 6 months for commercial vehicles and a maximum of 2 years for all other vehicles. Let me again, for clarity, state that there will be no fee increase in this policy change. So the extension of the time for your registration and your certificate of fitness will not come at an additional cost. Currently, legislation allows for up to 2 years. For the new policy, new vehicles will be up for 5 years. So from you purchase a new vehicle, your fitness will be allowed for 5 years. In relation to 3 years old cars, unless those will be for 3 years, and anything over 3 years old will be up to 2 years. So there'll be 3 classifications rather than what obtains now, which, as we know, is quite tedious. The good thing is that we are going to use technology to drive this. So the days of the stickers on your car and the paper certificate of fitness and all that goes with it are a thing of the past. We're going to use this opportunity now, since there has to be legislative changes, to just do everything at one time. That would include getting a driver's license, where you go to the depot, and depending on what methodology you wish to use, is how fast you get through. Whether you wait months, or whether you wait a few minutes or a few hours, all depending on who you see and who you talk to. We're going to move away from that, where you make your appointment online. And only those people that have appointments on that particular day and that particular time will be allowed to go into the depot for that particular exam. So again, for those of us who have young children, teenagers just becoming eligible for driver's license, you all know what takes place in terms of that process. So the fact is that when we do this and you go to the examination depot, with all the changes that we make, you should really only just see, those persons that are employed there, and not those that are outside on the periphery hustling you to give you the service that the government should give you automatically. Another one that is of huge concern, not only as it relates to road use, but national security, is the management of the demonstration plates. Those are the blue plates. You'll have seen on social media a terrible accident involving a Mercedes-Benz coming from a party, killing 4 people that had on a DC plate. DC plate is used for the trade, the automobile trade, in relation to moving cars from the wharf, demonstrating the cars for sale, etc. So there's a growing concern about the widespread misuse of demonstration plates in Jamaica. In many places, these plates are not being used as intended under the Road Traffic Act and associated regulations. Disturbingly, there's credible evidence that demonstration plates are being exploited by individuals to facilitate criminal activities. Compounding the issue, the police are currently unable to trace these plates through their smart check system. Currently, Tax Administration Jamaica does not have an accurate count of the demonstration plates currently in circulation. This gap in oversight has created opportunities for cloning and unauthorized use by criminal elements. As a result, the government is losing revenue, and the lack of control over this system poses a serious threat to public safety and national security. To address these challenges, legislative amendments will be required to overhaul the system and support a more secure, transparent, and accountable demonstration plate regime. You know, I have to show you the documents in there because some people don't believe that ministers work. So everything that I speak to you about, there's a document to support it in relation to the work that has been done by these hard-working technocrats within the ministries. So this one here is the software changes to facilitate the Motor Vehicle Policy Directive. This is April 4, 2025. In light of the above observations, the government will embark on a total revamp of the current system and replace it with a web-based demonstrated permit system. Dealers are able to access demonstration plates as required, and the authorities are better able to enforce and monitor compliance with little resources. The benefits to the government and Jamaicans: ease in administration, management, and enforcement, dealer online application, the ability to specify usage of permits, and printed permits, which will have a QR code for enforcement verification. Again, this is a work in progress, and here we have a document. Again, says Subcommittee on Demonstration Plates Interim Report. Everything is driven by information, collaboration, consensus. And this one here, on my return from traveling last week, the minister's brief on proposed management of demonstration plates. So this is not driven from the minister down. This is driven from the technocrats and the stakeholders up. So we can easily develop this demonstration plate process at a minimal cost. So far it is looking like about 10 million Jamaican dollars, and we can do this again within a few months, obviously taking into consideration that there will be a procurement requirement. For the design and implementation of the management system, a total recall of existing plates, which a deadline will be issued, submission of the legislative changes, and of course, finalize new fee structure. More good news. I don't come here often, you know. So when I come, I just give you everything one time. I don't have the time to come every week or every other week. Revised age public passenger vehicle importation policy. On April 7th, which was on Monday, Cabinet approved the amendments of the 2014 motor vehicle import policy as it relates to public passenger vehicles to include the following. For the public passenger transport sector, imported vehicles with seating capacity not exceeding 8 persons must not be older than 10 years, up from 8 years. Imported vehicles with seating capacity between 12 and 15 persons must not be older than 15 years. And imported vehicles with seating capacity between 26 and 32 seats must not be older than 15 years. So let me give you a background as somebody who is familiar with this industry. The average age of the public transportation vehicles that we see on the road with the red plates is 15 years old. So they are aged, they are not fuel efficient, they have been on the roads for many years, and they are not giving the comfort and efficiency to the commuters. We had imposed a policy in 2019 where we had made amendments specifically for the public transportation sector. For whatever reason, the full benefit did not reach to the taxi operator because he would either have to go to the dealer and buy them at a higher markup or whatever it was. So in doing this, I took into consideration the advice from the Public Transportation Steering Committee, which I formed when I became minister in 23. What does this do for the public passenger operator, public vehicle operator? He has the option to apply for an import license in his company's name or his personal name. He has the option to import that vehicle directly by going online to the auctions, going to direct to suppliers in Japan or wherever else, and buy it at source, which means that he's not being held to the point of where he has to pay additional cost to dealers, middlemen, whoever you call it. Before, you had to use a taxi association that you are a member of. Now, you have the option, if you so desire, to go directly and handle your transaction on your own. Huge difference. If it is that they cannot do that for one reason or the other, they don't have a tax compliance certificate, or they don't have the money up front to buy the car and they need to finance it, they still have the ability to get the license and to use the license to negotiate with a dealer, with a bank, whoever it is, for a specific vehicle. So that is the main difference that will make the difference to make sure that every transport operator, regardless of whether he's a member of association, he has a license on his own, as long as he's compliant and registered with the transport authority, and he pays his taxes, that he can qualify to get a tax compliance certificate, he's good to go. The other option, as I said before, is that dealers will be able to stock cars specifically, and remember that this is a special age for a special category. So you don't go on to the lots and get cars that are specially approved for a specific year. If my memory serves me correct, I think P.S. Temple is here, the current regular policy outside of public transport is up to 7 years old. I think it's up to 7 years old. So you have a 3-year window for specifically for the public transportation. So those persons who can't, for whatever reason, will be in a position position to go and get vehicles to be able to get financing off of lots, which will save significant amount of time. So I think that the increase in the age, which will be for 2 years, it's not open-ended because this has other repercussions. This policy will be for 2 years, allowing every transport operator to benefit from an additional increase in age limit specific for the public transportation. The Transport Authority will be responsible to communicate and coordinate with the Trade Board for the issuance of these licenses. So the Transport Authority will be the main first point of access, and then they will communicate. But again, I'm heartened because I know the complaints, and I know that the 2019 policy did not go far enough to make sure that these persons would have been able to benefit directly and not have to pay the middleman or the dealer markups. Quick one still on Transport Authority. Transport Authority has partnered with the St. Ann Municipal Corporation to construct a long-awaiting taxi car park in Discovery Bay for taxi operators plying the routes Discovery Bay to Falmouth, Discovery Bay to Brownstown, Discovery Bay to Runaway Bay, Discovery Bay to Farmtown, Discovery Bay to St. Anne's Bay, and the surrounding areas. The facility, as it stands now, will serve as a main terminal point for over 250 taxis operating in that area. The land that is going to be utilized was gifted to the St. Ann Municipal Corporation as a gift from Noranda Bauxite, and based on engineering and construction estimates, a little under $10 million. This will be a joint venture partnership between the Transport Authority, the St. Ann Municipal Corporation, and Noranda. We would know that up to recently, a stoplight was erected right in Discovery Bay by the gas station at that intersection, which was a death trap. And those of you who travel that route would know that the taxis were parked in every plaza and every gas station and on the roads all around there because, in fairness, they had nowhere else to go. So I went there and I made a commitment, and the commitment is going to be delivered. The land has already been transferred, and we are now in the final stages of the plans to erect this facility. South Parade Car Park. The KSAMC has agreed with the Transport Authority to convert the South Parade Car Park into a taxi car park. This new car park will be the terminal point for 4 route taxi routes. The facility will help in alleviating the chronic traffic congestion in downtown Kingston, and some amount of retrofitting is required, and the authorities are working collaboratively to identify sources of funding. More importantly, conversion of 11 JUTC routes to route taxi routes. Transport Authority and JUTC have finalized the conversion of 11 JUTC routes to route taxi routes. During this licensing period, the authority has commenced accepting applications for these routes to allow Hackney carriage operators to convert to route taxis and provide legitimate service along these routes, remove the element of conflict with the authorities and the risk of associated with prosecution and seizure of vehicles for operating contrary to their road licenses, provide for the attachment of approved fare structure for these routes, and provide reliable means of transport for the traveling public. Application opened in March. The steering committee is also looking and has in front of the JUTC an additional 12 routes for taxis. That request is under consideration. Well, it was up until now because it's approved. And the KSAMC are exploring parking arrangements at the Pichon Street Transportation Center. These 12 additional routes that are under consideration for Hackney operators who have been providing public transportation service on these routes for some time now. This will ensure that the taxi operators have the right to an appropriate fee structure. So again, and I'm going to get to that now, there's this feeling that the JUTC is competing against the public transportation operators. Absolutely not. What we are doing is streamlining and making sure that what JUTC can manage, because they don't have the fleet, rather than holding it as exclusive, they release it so that new routes, so that will be 23 new routes in the KMTR. 23 new routes. Just think about what that will do to expand the ability for commuters to travel and also operators to earn. Let's go to the big one now. The rural school bus service. Following the Prime Minister's announcement of the rural school bus service, preparations are advancing. This will be a joint initiative between the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth and Information, and the Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport. We have a meeting immediately after this, since I knew Minister Dixon would be here and our PS and team, and my PS and team. So we won't waste any time. We'll finish this, we'll go straight into that meeting. So, let me outline just quickly what we are trying to achieve. The Ministry of Transport will be responsible for managing the buses. Ministry of Education will be required to find the funding for the buses and also to provide the routes for the buses. You will see outside one of the test buses that we brought in, which JUTC has tested, approved, and the bottom line is that this first 100 buses, 50 of which I hope to get here within the next 60 days, will be used for the major corridors. And once we have the major corridors figured out, then of course we move into the interiors. Based on the numbers of students and schools, which I just want to give you so we can put things in perspective as it relates to the task that is ahead of us. So we have 162 remote rural schools with 15,168 students. We have 440 rural schools with 105,000 students. And urban schools, we have 379 of those with 257,000 students. So it simply means that the JUTC and the Ministry of Education, in starting this program, it will take some time to be able to really have the impact that we want, which means that there will still be a place for the public passenger vehicles to operate. The fact is that as of now, in rural Jamaica, the average cost for a student for one-way route is about $100, as against for adults, $200 and upwards. So that is why you find that the public passenger operators are reluctant to take the school children, and if they do, they take them as additional to what the vehicle holds in terms of regular adults. So they are what left, which causes reckless driving, speeding to get them off to go back to make up for the shortfall, and what we want to do is simply separate them. We want to separate the children. So it is not an incentive, or the public passenger operators are not incentivized to take children. They are disincentivized, and therefore that's why they only get transportation if there is not a full vehicle of adults. And if there is, they will put 3 of them in the trunk. And you see them hanging out at the back. So I want to make it very clear that this is not a business opportunity for the government. This is a moral responsibility of any well-thinking government to finally address this decade-old problem. And I'm going to address it. It's not going to happen overnight, but I'm going to address it. You just think what these buses will do with a driver that is cleared by the security forces, that is trained by the JUTC, that has a cashless system, so the part students swipe and the parents load up the card for the concessionary rate for the children, and an app where you can track the bus so parents can know at all times where their children are, and the JUTC and the government can know whether the driver is driving correctly, what he's doing, what he's not doing. These buses will be used in the mornings and in the afternoons. Any bus that is seen outside of those hours is going to have a problem because it is a school bus for rural school children, nobody else. The same regulations that apply to the school when you are on school property extends to the bus. Teachers will be assigned based on where they live to travel on the bus to make sure that what obtains on the bus is what we want for our children. So this is a game changer. And I, with Minister Dixon, we're going to work on it. We're going to get the 50 buses here. We're going to run them through length and breadth of Jamaica to make sure that the specifications are right and they are fully approved by JUTC. But for September morning, other 50, and we move on. The good thing about it, and Minister Hill made a point, and I'm passionate, so I want you to bear with me. We are spending, because of our fiscal discipline over the years and our gains, billions, tens of billions of dollars on roads, on water, on everything else, infrastructural-wise. These buses, refurbished buses, that hold up to 70, 75 kids, will cost the government of Jamaica $50,000 US approximately, 7.5 million Jamaican dollars per bus. You tell me if it's not time for Jamaica to invest in the children of Jamaica for the future by virtue of investing the same levels of capital that we are doing in so many other areas that are badly in need, well deserved, but this, to me, must become the focus and the priority of the government to make sure that we can put enough buses into the system to make sure that children can go safely to school and be in a better frame of mind to learn. The last thing I'll say on this is that existing arrangements that schools have for transportation PS troop, I know there are many schools that have their own private arrangements, those will be uninterrupted. As a matter of fact, I encourage them to buy some of these buses and help, because this is not only a government initiative, this has great private sector investment potential, save and except for the fact that the same concessions that apply for the thousands of students in Kingston and St. Andrew, Portmore and Spanish Town will be passed on through the JUTC to the rural school bus system. There will be equity and fairness. Currently now, part students get a subvention through the Ministry of Labor to Ministry of Education. They pay nothing on the local JUTC system. Others pay between 20 and 50 Jamaican dollars, depending on the route. Those will be passed on to the rural school bus system to allow for fairness, equity, and affordability. Currently, $300 to $600 per trip times 2 per student for every rural parent. Unaffordable, especially if you have more than 2, 3, 4, some have even more than that. To the point of where I come from a rural constituency. I live it, I know it. I didn't grow up in the country. And I didn't take a school bus, but I've been a representative for 17 years. In some cases, parents have to evaluate the children, assess them as to which one they think has the best potential to succeed, and choose that one to invest in them, to buy them the school books, to pay the school fee, to pay the lunch money, pay the bus fare, and the other 3 stay at home and may go to school occasionally. There's no society that can grow like that. So I'm passionate, and I want to say that we will get it done. Can't close without talking about road safety, national road safety. Very briefly, as you know, Cabinet has approved a 5% allocation from traffic fines to be dedicated to MSET. This funding will help us engage an international communication expert with a proven track record in effective road safety campaigns. The procurement process begins this month with an expected timeline of 2 to 3 months. Additionally, the ministry will procure helmets that meet the specifications of the Road Traffic Act, and this will be distributed to licensed motorcycles operators. At the same time, the ministry is pressing forward with the pedestrian safety program using a multi-ministry, multi-agency approach. To date, adult pedestrian fatalities remain a major concern among the categories of road users. Following discussions with the JCF and MSET, the aim is to partner with the Constabulary Communication Network to enhance our ongoing public education campaign, which we launched in February 2025. While March 30th marked the deadliest day since the start of the year, there have been 7 days where at least 5 people have died in traffic accidents. The recent spike in road crashes highlights the urgent need for targeted interventions, strengthening enforcement, improving public education, and fast-tracking legislative and technological reforms, which are critical to reversing this trend and saving lives. The period, April 1st, 24 to March 31st, 25, there was a noticeable decline in fatalities. Not good enough. Still, too many people losing their lives on the roads on a daily basis. And the ministry and the government is committed to address this with the funds that we are now getting. I think when I spoke to PS yesterday, we should get between $100 and $150 billion from the traffic fines that were previously earmarked only for the Ministry of National Security, Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of Justice. Yet still, MSET had responsibility for national road safety with no budget allocation. Well, that has changed, and I think that with those funds, we can make a real impact in getting into the psyche of these drivers to understand that they have precious lives that they are responsible for when they go about their daily business. So I hope this was interesting. I hope that I have more good news in a few weeks to give you. But I'm sure that I have at least 1 week in the news cycle.
I am pretty
Thank you very
sure
much.
of that.
God bless you.
Thank you very much, Minister Vaz. And I was going to take questions, Naomi, but I want to get to Minister, if you don't mind. And anyway, not yet with the questions, because you and I do have a meeting. We have a meeting. We're finding a little room to continue our meeting on the school bus service with our PSs and rest of our technical teams. So he can stay. He's not running off because he has to meet with me. So I'm going to move on to the Honorable Floyd Green our Minister of Agriculture, who also has big news announcements. This cabinet meeting on Monday, there were a lot of things that took place on Monday, and so we're giving you the highlights, and of course he has some good announcements to make also. So I will have Minister Green come, and then we'll take the questions after. Thank you, Minister Green.
These hands.
A lot of talk about which is the most important ministry. But remember that every time you take a bite, whether in education, transport, or wherever, please thank a farmer. Good morning, everybody. My colleague, Ministers Vaz and Morris Dixon and Minister Hill, who has left us, our permanent secretaries. First, we want to start by appreciating that we are in Farmers Month. And as such, Farmers Month 2025 is being celebrated under the theme, Thank a Farmer. This campaign is designed to honor and appreciate Jamaican farmers while also encouraging broader conversations around food security and the importance of agriculture to national development. This year's observance centralizes all activities and messaging across the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining and its various agencies, including the Jamaica Agricultural Society. We would have had the official launch of Farmers Month on Thursday, April 3 at Crichton Estate in Irish Town in St. Andrew. The choice of the location really reflected the ministry's commitment to our coffee farmers in East and West Rural St. Andrew, parts of Portland, parts of St. Thomas. And as such, we would have rolled out our continuing support for coffee farmers through this launch of our Thank a Farmer campaign. In fact, we're looking to distribute an additional 20,000 coffee seedlings. We're going to be partnering with some of our exporters to help our farmers. Currently, we have 8 farm roads in our coffee areas. This is a new initiative for this year. We've allocated over $120 million to help our coffee farmers in specific areas, including parts of Portland. I was able to tour with Minister Vaz in one of those important farm roads up there in Bangor Ridge, and we're doing work in St. Thomas, we're doing work in East Rural and West Rural St. Andrew. This is a part of the ministry's continued support to our farmers. In fact, last year, over $496 million for our production and productivity program went into direct targeted support for crops like yams, ginger, onion, Irish potato, and provides resources for small ruminants, poultry, irrigation, and farm tools. In fact, we had a wonderful year in relation to our farm road program. We would have done over 50 farm roads that are major rehabilitation and would have additionally done some minor work on over 30 farm roads, bringing I think to 81 the amount of farm roads that we touched last year for a total budget of about $870 million. We continue to help our farmers with direct support. As you know, we would have broken ground for a cold storage facility in Kirkvine. That is underway. We do expect to be completed in 6 months from February, so you can look forward to that. And that is part of our drive this year to focus a lot of attention on cold storage so that when our farmers have periods of excess, they have somewhere to store it. In fact, I would have toured last week what will be the largest government-owned cold storage facility that will be in Essex Valley, over 3,000 square feet. I think it can hold about 20 containers and has processing capability. It's going to be something to behold, and we do expect it will be completed by June, and our Prime Minister will be able to open that facility. Irrigation, we continue to expand irrigation. I do repeat these things because if you listen to other places, you would not know that these things are happening in earnest. And as such, we will launch our Parnassus irrigation scheme this month for Farmers Month, which will bring an additional 300 hectares, about 600 acres, under irrigation support in South Clarendon. And we do expect the Prime Minister to commission that system on the 23rd day of April, which is part of our drive to bring 1,600 hectares under irrigation. And that does not include what we will break ground for this year, which is our Pedro Plains irrigation scheme, which will bring an additional 3,000 hectares under irrigation coverage. So for Farmers Month, we want all of you, every time you engage a farmer, the first thing you should say to them is, thank you. And we're going to have we had our farmer, Thank You Farmer church service. We're going to have our Thank You Farmer Manchester Food Festival on April 13th. We're going to have our Montpellier Agricultural Show on April 21, St. Mary Agricultural Show, April 21. All of this is Easter Monday. So wherever you are in Jamaica on Easter Monday, please find an agricultural show. We're in Manchester, we're in Montpellier and St. James, St. Mary, and also the St. Elizabeth Horticultural Show. We're going to have a Thank a Farmer Farmers Market here in Kingston and also in St. James, and a Thank a Farmer Wellness Fair where we will bring out our farmers and treat them for that day. In addition, we're going to launch our RADA mobile app roadshow. If you don't yet know, RADA has a mobile application that you can download on Android or iPhone that brings extension services to your fingertips. So for even those of you who are backyard gardeners and you're wondering what is happening to your tomato senator who planted and only got 2, we have videos now that can guide you through the process. I would love to tell you a little bit about our 4-H Expo, but that's next week, Wednesday. We're inviting everybody to join. And yesterday, we had our first ever 4-H agribusiness pitch competition, where one of our REAP builders got $1 million. I said, we're one, but to be honest, we did regional competitions. We had 11 finalists, and at the end of the competition, we ended up with a tie. And instead of giving one person $1 million, they both went home with $1 million to their business. Wonderful businesses. One is a honey-based business, the other is a sweet potato-based business, and both of them showed how it is scalable. So please, thank a farmer for Farmers Month and every other month of the year. Additionally, I want to take a moment to speak about an important policy shift that was announced by the Prime Minister during his recent budget presentations, which is really changes to the vehicle import regime for agriculture and fisheries sector. You know, when I became Minister of Agriculture, we had a listening tour where what we did was went around and we had meetings in every parish with all our farmers to ask them what they wanted to see the government do for them. What were some of the challenges? How could we make them more efficient? How could we make them more profitable. And through our stakeholder engagements, a number of our farmers said to us that they face significant issues transporting their perishable produce. They wanted to see an expansion to ensure that they were getting the motor vehicles that they needed to be more profitable and efficient. Most of you may know that our farmers currently enjoy a 20% duty concession, but it was limited to pickup trucks. I'm pleased to announce that Cabinet has now approved an expansion of the categories, so our farmers will be able to get a 20% duty concession on panel vans and small trucks, small refrigerated trucks as well, that will ensure that they can expand their fleet and bring in vehicles that are better suited to treat with the perishability of their produce. In addition, we looked at the cost of a number of these motor vehicles, and we have decided that for these panel vans, small trucks for farmers, that we're going to amend the age limit for these light commercial vehicles, increasing it from 10 years to 15 years. That means that there will be lower cost, more accessible for our farmers. And I kept saying our farmers, but I'm very, very pleased to announce that for a very long time, our marine fishers were unable to access the duty concession. Our fish farmers were able to access it, our farmers were able to access it, but not our marine fishers. I'm pleased to announce that we are making the changes to ensure that our marine fishers will now be able to access the 20% duty concession. And under all of these new criteria, they will now be able to get small refrigerated trucks that they can use in their fishing enterprise, hence strengthening their ability to participate in the blue economy, increasing productivity, increasing efficiency, and lowering barriers to entry and operation. Finally, I have to look at Dana because I don't know if she recognizes that with us here, it's going to be a long post-cap. One of the things that we have been recognizing is that that we have been underutilizing our various trade arrangements in relation to exports. And as such, we have been proactive in seeing how can we, one, expand the trade arrangements that we have, ensure that we get access to new markets for our farmers, but importantly, how can we guide our farmers, how can we guide our exporters to be able to penetrate those markets, to be able to access the support services, to utilize our incentives, our waivers, and to get past technical barriers. To fill these gaps, we saw it fit to develop an export clinic, which are intensive workshops and forums that will equip new and existing exporters, farmers, agro-processors, and other stakeholders with essential information, key insights, and perspectives to increase positive export outcomes. This is a collaborative effort involving our internal and external stakeholders. We've engaged the DBJ, we've engaged the JMEA. We had our first export clinic here in Kingston. It was oversubscribed and went extremely well. And we're going to be moving these export clinics right across the country. So our exporters, our agro-processors, our farmers will be coming to you to tell you what are the qualities that you need, what requirements and standards you need to satisfy, what are the opportunities. But we haven't stopped there, because we recognize that while we're going to be doing these clinics and while we're going to be expanding across the island, why not use the technology that is at our fingertips? And as such, Jamaica, we have developed now, the first time in the Ministry of Agriculture, a suite of practical tools to drive export expansion. And this is found in a one-stop platform, the Trade and Market Intelligence Portal. So what we have done is to bring together a platform which brings all the information around exporting from an agricultural standpoint in one space. It provides you with investment guidelines, profiles with calculated returns on investments, detailed information on products in demand in target markets, as well as market entry requirements, centralized access to all the ministry's market research studies, incentives, waivers, application forms, licenses for exports. So you won't have to go to multiple spaces to get all the information that you need if you're looking to export. Through our new Trade and Market Intelligence portal, we're providing step-by-step guides on how to export agricultural items, fisheries, and some mining products so that more of our clientele will be able to tap into these trade arrangements and ultimately will have us diversify and export more. Again, thank you and have a wonderful Farmers Month.
Thank you very much, Minister. And so you heard a lot of the announcements from Cabinet this week, and that was not all of them. We are working really hard to deliver to the people of Jamaica the kind of government that they deserve. And so I'm going to hand over to Naomi to take questions from the media. We have Minister Vaz with us, and we still have Minister Green with us.
Thank you, Minister. We have so many people online giving commendations to both ministers on their presentation. Before I get to the floor in our banquet hall, may I just give a few questions then from the ones online. Let me start with Minister Green, who was last. Minister, there's somebody online who wants you to explain how the waiver will impact the marine fishers, in particular, how it will work, how they can apply.
So we do have a fairly robust system for people who want to apply for their concession regime. For farmers, this is normally done through the RADA, your local RADA office. Clearly, there are requirements that go with it. You have to be a registered farmer. Everything I've said, you have to be a registered farmer. There has to be some verification process. So normally, for farmers, go to your RADA office. That is then streamlined through the ministry, and you will get your various concession documentation. For fishers, we're going to be running this process through the National Fisheries Authority. So again, we have National Fisheries Authority offices in almost every parish now. We have significantly built out our National Fisheries Authority, so you will go to your National Fisheries Authority. There is going to be a time lag. Now that we've announced it, we've started the work behind, as you would have just heard, Cabinet approved the expansion. So I would say, in terms of to make that first application for fishers, give us 2 months, and then you should be in a great position to move forward.
All right, thank you. Now to Minister Vaz, and there was somebody who said that you have an association with Portland, so they want to congratulate Titchfield on winning Schools Challenge quiz. May I then give Minister his questions from online? Minister, someone is saying that the recall of the DC plates, while the it's a suggestion, sorry. They're saying, well, why not recall DC plates while the audit is being done and change the system entirely? I suppose there's a question in the comment.
Sure, that's the intention. Obviously, that the plates that are out there now, as I said in my comments, a lot of them are unaccounted for, and therefore that allows them to be used for all sorts of nefarious areas. So we will recall, but we have to make sure that we have something to replace the recall with, so that there's not a lull in the transition. But it will be done, and it will be done in the shortest possible time.
All right. Let me just, being fair to you, big up, Minister. That's a whole heap of news for a long time. All right. Then another question. Will the matter of purchasing vehicles directly result in lower costs given the tariffs and customs duties?
So the customs duties remain the same. The only thing that has changed is the fact that public transport operators will be able to bring in older vehicles, which obviously will be less expensive, which means less duty. So yes, they will benefit significantly from both the cost of the vehicle and, of course, the applicable duties on the wharf. But the duty structure outside of agriculture that Minister Green spoke about will remain thing. And let me take the opportunity to congratulate Titchfield, humongous for a little parish, with a big school in Kingston. So it just shows you that all things are possible.
All right, the final one I have, let me apologize to the colleagues in media in the banquet hall for taking all these questions at once from online. But it also has to do with schooling then, Minister. Scheduling of the bus service for the school bus system that will come out, and also an update on scheduling, proper time scheduling for JUTC buses within the corporate area.
100%. We did have some issues in terms of the rolling out the app for JUTC based on some technology issues as it relates to the country of origin. Those buses, as you know, came from China, so we have to be putting in our own system, which is taking us some time. But yes, it is the intention to have a full accessible app for both JUTC, for the regular KMTR, and also for the school bus, so that people can track the buses, and also, more importantly, we in JUTC can also make sure that we can monitor our fleet of buses. So that is and I'm sure as we unfold and the school bus, the Ministry of Education will have responsibility for all of that in terms of the routing, the scheduling, the process, etc., etc. So you will hear more. As I said, we have a meeting this morning. I expect that this morning will carry us a far way in terms of outlining exactly what the next steps are.
All right, so for those who may have a follow-up question in terms of timeline, soon, until we get the actual
In terms
timeline.
of, you mean
for the scheduling of JUTC buses.
Put it this way, the JUTC is in the final stages. I'm hoping that we can probably do that in time for before summer. And once that is done, then the school bus will obviously benefit from that. So we are far advanced. The last report I got from JUTC, as a matter of fact, I think they're testing the app now, but it's very important because that's a big part of the benefits to these new buses and new technology.
All right. Thank you, Minister. My apologies for for having you wait, and thank you for your patience.
Good morning. 2 questions, one to Minister Morris Dixon. I'll start with Minister Vaz, though. So, taking off the ministry hat and putting on the MP hat for a bit, Nationwide did carry a story yesterday in which we interviewed some citizens of Portland, and they expressed concern that there's been a 200% increase in murders. It doesn't sound like much on paper because it's just 6 since...
7.
7. As at April 6, I believe, 2025. And to some parishes, that's probably not a lot. But to Portland, given that you had 13 in all of 2024, in that context, it's quite a large number. Some citizens have told us that they don't feel as safe as they used to in a parish like Portland. Seeing that you are the MP for a constituency in the parish, are you also concerned about the rise of murders?
Yeah, very concerned. It's something that I've been in constant dialogue with the Commissioner and the Minister of National Security. I know that there is a visit planned for Friday with both the Minister and the Commissioner and his team. And I have to be very careful because what you don't want to do is to cause any suspected interference in police work with wearing your political hat. But I will say that I am very concerned. It's something that we are not accustomed to. I've been here for 17 years, and this has never happened. And the fact is that the type of incidents, of the drive-by shootings, etc., and the fact that most of them, if not all, are being identified as persons from outside of the parish is a great concern to me. And it means that we have issues, both in terms of access from the sea, the whole Haiti situation, which we know is an ongoing situation, and of course, the migration of criminals because of the pressure that they are under in other parishes. Portland is not and will not be a safe haven for criminals, whether importees or deportees. And what I can say is that leadership has one responsibility, and that is results. So whether you're a businessman, whether you're a minister, results is what counts. And as far as I'm concerned, leadership must be held accountable, and I expect that the police will deal with whatever the findings are to make sure that we return Portland to where it was in short order. And I will not relent on that commitment to the people of Portland.
Thank you, Minister. And question to Minister Morris Dixon. I believe it was last year the JLP had called on Stocks and Securities Limited to ensure that the victims of the alleged fraud at the institution were compensated. Last night we had the trustee from SSL on Nationwide at 5, and they told us that a fund had been established, a victims compensation fund, for people that may have been victims of the alleged fraud. They're supposed to submit their proof of claim. And that the fund was $500,000. That was the amount of money that's in the fund. Is this something that the government is satisfied with in terms of the route they've taken to compensate the victims?
Well, of course, the SSL matter was one that the entire Jamaica was very concerned about. And the government has given as much support as we can in terms of getting to the bottom of it. And we know that there will be prosecutions that will be pursued in relation to what had taken place. In terms of the compensation fund, of course, for the government, we want all the victims to be compensated. Your interview last night, I didn't listen to it and I didn't hear it. And I've not received a response from the Minister of Finance in relation to this. I know that the Minister of Finance in Cabinet has noted that the SSL matter is one that is very important and that a positive resolution needs to be found for all of those who've been affected. And so I know that she will be commenting on it as she is informed more on it. I have not gotten any additional information, but as soon as I get information on SSL and where we're going, I will provide that to you. And I know that the Minister of Finance is very much working on this and looking at this, and she's going to give a more fulsome update on that area. So listen out for it.
Thank you, Minister. Are there any other questions?
I know we're later than usual at 10:37, but it was a good morning.
Yes. Minister, if you could just reiterate the Prime Minister's Youth Awards nomination process that's coming up.
All right. Remember, and I know the chair of the Prime Minister's Youth Award Selection Committee is in the audience with us today. We do have the awards open for nominations. It is an important award. There's so many fantastic young people in Jamaica that are doing fantastic things, whether it's in the area of academics, or it could be in the area of governance and advocacy, or even in the area, we've been looking for persons who are living with disabilities and special needs. We have a special award for those individuals. And so there are many different categories. Please look online. We have all of the information there. If you know a wonderful young person who is just exceptional and should be awarded in this way, please nominate them, get the information and nominate. And so I believe there are no more questions. It was a good morning. Just have to reiterate how wonderful the ministers have been this morning with their announcements. Minister Hill, Minister Vaz, and Minister Green, all talking about the fantastic work that the government is doing day in and day out. And I know there was so much from Minister Vaz. We're seeing efficiency when you hear about what's happening with the driver's licenses and also with the registration process and fitness process, all of those being changed. This is about efficiency. And this is a government that is really serious about driving down all of the bureaucracy and inefficiencies, and these are some of the initiatives. And we're so happy to hear about what's happening with our farmers in Farmers Month, and we will thank a farmer. I'm not a good one, but I do thank those who have better green thumbs than I do, and the focus on irrigation for our farmers, and of course that new vehicle importation scheme for farmers and fisher folk was really great to hear. And of course I can't not talk about the rural school bus system, which is going to be a game changer. So many of our students miss school because their parents can't afford the transportation costs. This is wonderful. The Ministry of Education is so excited. We are ready to work on this with the JUTC and the Ministry of Transport. And so I thank Minister Vaz for moving so quickly to address this problem that has been there for a long time. And so as we end today's very long post-cabinet press briefing, I again say to our visitors who are here, thank you so much for coming. We do this all the time. We open up ourselves for questions from the media. We tell Jamaica what is happening because we're very transparent. And so I thank you for tuning in this week. And as always, God bless all of you and God bless Jamaica, land we love. Thank you.